The vast darkness of space lit up with purple streaks as the Meridian Empire's scout ships dropped out of hyperspace near the edges of the Sol system. Their crystalline ships, each the size of a small city, reflected the distant sunlight as they began their scan of the third planet. Commander Root, the lead scout of the Meridian Empire, stood tall on his bridge with 4 arms crossed against his chest. His silver skin gleamed under the soft lights as he watched the blue planet grow larger on the main screen. After ruling 300 star systems, the Empire had become efficient at assessing new civilizations. This one, however, made him pause. Curious, he muttered, his translator converting his clicks and whistles into standard galactic basic. They've only reached their moon. Yet they have billions of inhabitants and advanced electronic communications. His science officer, Officer Pine, brought up more detailed scans. Sir, they appear to be in a technological transition phase. They have primitive chemical rockets, but their computer systems are interesting. Their weapons are mostly kinetic, projectiles, and explosives. No energy weapons detected. Root's upper lip curled in what passed for a smile among his species. Another easy conquest for the Empire. These humans, as they called themselves, wouldn't know what hit them. But Officer Pine wasn't finished. Sir, there's something else. Their information networks are incredibly complex, and their military installations, they're everywhere, but hidden. It's like they're always preparing for war. Against who? Root wondered aloud. They haven't even met other civilizations yet. Against themselves, sir. Root's 4 eyes blinked in sequence, a species that constantly fought itself. How had they not destroyed themselves already? No matter. The Empire had a standard procedure for primitive worlds. The next day, massive Imperial ships appeared in the skies above every major human city. Their arrival blocked out the sun in many places, casting ominous shadows over the panicking populations below. But something was off. The humans weren't running around in chaos as expected. Instead, they were organizing. In the United Nations emergency session, world leaders gathered quickly. The imperial message was being broadcast worldwide. People of Earth, you have been chosen to join the Meridian Empire. Surrender your sovereignty and accept our rule or face extinction. You have 24 hours to comply. Resistance is futile. We have conquered hundreds of worlds before you. The human response came not from fear or panic, but from a place of cold, calculated anger. In thousands of hidden bunkers worldwide, military commanders powered up systems that had been waiting for this very day. In laboratories across the globe, scientists began adapting their theoretical alien defense projects into reality. The world's response was delivered by the newly appointed Earth Defense Commander, a decorated general named Tom. His weathered face broadcast on every screen the Empire could access. To the Meridian Empire, humanity has spent its entire history fighting, sometimes against nature, sometimes against each other. We've survived ice ages, plagues, world wars, and our own destructive tendencies. If you think we'll bow down to alien bullies, you don't understand humans at all. Here's our answer. Come and try. In his command ship, Root received the message with disbelief. No primitive species had ever dared to refuse the Empire. He checked the scans again. The humans had no energy shields, no faster-than-light travel, no beam weapons. What could they possibly do against the mighty Imperial fleet? As the 24-hour deadline approached, Root prepared his ships for what he thought would be a simple show of force. He failed to notice the thousands of small objects moving into position around Earth, or the way human military bases had gone suspiciously quiet. Deploy the subjugation fleet, he ordered confidently. Show them what happens to those who defy the Empire. Little did Root know, but this would be the last order he would give as a confident commander. The humans were about to teach the Empire a lesson it would never forget. Never underestimate a species that had turned warfare into an art form. The first shots were about to be fired, and the galaxy would never be the same. Commander Root watched with satisfaction as his fleet of 300 warships descended toward Earth's atmosphere. The dark shapes of Imperial vessels blotted out the stars, their weapons primed and ready. He expected the battle to last no more than an hour. "Begin the attack," he ordered. "Target their largest military installations first." The Imperial ships fired their energy beams, purple streaks of destructive power racing toward Earth's surface. But something unexpected happened. As the beams neared their targets, they curved and twisted, missing completely or hitting empty ground. "What's happening?" Root demanded, his silver skin turning pale with concern. Officer Pine rushed to check the readings. "Sir, they've generated some kind of magnetic field. It's bending our energy weapons away from their targets." Before Root could respond, small objects began rising from Earth's surface. Thousands of them, each no bigger than a car, climbing rapidly through the atmosphere. The Empire's sensors identified them as primitive satellites, but they were moving far too fast for that. "Impossible," Root muttered. "They shouldn't have this technology." The first wave of human counterattacks struck like lightning. These weren't the crude missiles the Empire had expected. Instead, quantum-guided projectiles, their paths unpredictable and impossible to track, slammed into Imperial ships. The projectiles carried no explosives. They didn't need to. At their speeds, kinetic energy alone turned them into devastating weapons. Shields failing on multiple ships. Officer Pine shouted. "Their weapons, they're changing course mid-flight. Our tracking systems can't lock on." Root watched in horror as one of his largest battleships split in half, torn apart by a barrage of these primitive weapons. The humans had hidden their true capabilities well. What the Empire had dismissed as simple satellites turned out to be a complex network of orbital defense platforms. "Launch fighters," Root commanded, his voice shaking. Overwhelmed them with numbers. Imperial fighters poured out of the carrier ships, their energy weapons blazing. But the humans were ready for this too. Small, agile Earth fighters rose to meet them, using the planet's atmosphere and gravity to pull off maneuvers that the Imperial pilots couldn't match. In the skies over Earth, an impossible dance of death played out. Imperial fighters, designed for the empty void of space, found themselves outmaneuvered by human aircraft that seemed to defy physics. The humans had turned their planet's gravity and atmosphere, what the Empire saw as limitations, into powerful advantages. "Sir," Pine's voice was barely a whisper now. "We've lost 30% of the fleet. Our energy weapons are useless against their defenses and their kinetic weapons." He paused as another battleship exploded nearby. "They're tearing us apart." Root couldn't believe what he was seeing. His mighty fleet, pride of the Empire, was being decimated by a species that hadn't even reached their neighboring planets. How had they developed such effective countermeasures? How had the Empire's intelligence failed so completely? The answer came in a transmission from Earth, broadcast on all frequencies. It showed humans in laboratories, working with what appeared to be salvaged Imperial technology. The Empire's scout ships had been leaking technology for months, and the humans had reverse-engineered everything they could find. "Fall back," Root finally ordered, his pride shattered. "All ships, emergency retreat." As the remaining Imperial ships flowed into hyperspace, Earth's defenders cheered in their cockpits and control rooms. But this was just the beginning. On screens worldwide, Earth Defense Commander Tom addressed humanity. "Today, we showed the Empire that humanity won't be conquered, but they'll be back. And next time, they'll be ready for our tricks. So we need to be better. We need to be smarter. And most importantly, we need to take the fight to them." In his damaged flagship, Commander Root prepared his report to the Empire's War Council. How could he explain that the primitive humans had just destroyed 40% of his fleet? The Empire had ruled the stars for 10,000 years, but in just one day, everything had changed. The humans weren't just fighters. They were innovators. And they were just getting started. 3 weeks after repelling the Imperial assault, Earth's research centers buzzed with activity. In underground labs across the planet, scientists worked day and night studying the captured alien technology. What the Empire had spent centuries developing, humans were understanding and improving in days. Admiral Mark stood in the control room of Earth's new space dock, watching as workers attached reverse-engineered Imperial engines to human-designed warships. The hybrid vessels looked strange, a mix of Earth's sturdy, practical design and the Empire's advanced technology. But they worked better than either side's ships alone. "The test results are in, Admiral," said lead engineer Anna, her eyes bright with excitement despite her lack of sleep. "Our hybrid drives are 30% faster than Imperial standards. We've solved the power stability issues they never figured out." Mark nodded, studying the holographic display showing their first battle fleet. "And the weapons. Even better. We've combined their energy weapons with our guidance systems. They won't be able to dodge like we did." Operation Thunderbolt was almost ready. While the Empire expected Earth to cower behind its defenses, humanity had other plans. They would strike first, and strike hard. The new fleet launched under cover of darkness, using stolen Imperial codes to slip through space undetected. Their target, the Empire's largest shipyard in the Centauri sector. The facility produced 1/3 of all Imperial warships, and its loss would cripple their military production. Admiral Mark stood on the bridge of the flagship Retribution, watching his fleet of 50 ships move silently through the void. Each vessel carried a crew chosen for their ability to think creatively under pressure, a human trait the Empire couldn't match. "Imperial patrol approaching," reported the sensor officer. "They haven't spotted us yet." Mark smiled. The Empire's rigid patrol patterns made them predictable. "Deploy ghost drones." Small, unmanned craft split off from the fleet, broadcasting false signals that mimicked common space debris. The Imperial patrol passed right by, their automated systems filtering out what they thought was just random junk. As they approached the shipyard, Mark activated the fleet-wide comm. "Remember your training. Hit hard, hit fast, and don't let them pin you down. Show them why you don't pick a fight with Earth." The attack began with a wave of electronic warfare that the Empire had never seen before. Earth's hackers, who had spent decades finding ways into the most secure networks back home, tore through Imperial cyber defenses like paper. Shipyard defenses turned against their own ships. Dock clamps released, sending half-built vessels drifting into each other. Emergency systems went haywire, venting atmosphere and shutting down gravity controls. In the chaos, Earth's fleet struck. Hybrid weapons fired with deadly accuracy, guided by human tactical AI that adapted faster than Imperial commanders could respond. Mark watched as his ships executed maneuvers that Imperial doctrine said were impossible. "Sir," called out the tactical officer, "they're trying to call for reinforcements." "Right on schedule," Mark replied. "Launch the mining drones." Hundreds of small drones, based on Earth's old asteroid mining equipment, swarmed out into space. Instead of collecting rocks, these were packed with explosives. They burrowed into the shipyard structure, planting charges at key points that human engineers had identified from stolen blueprints. The Imperial commanders, trained to fight massive fleet battles, had no doctrine to deal with this kind of assault. Their remaining defenses focused on the human ships, ignoring the harmless mining drones until it was too late. "All teams report charges set," announced the operations officer. "Awaiting your command, Admiral." Mark took a deep breath. "Send the message, then detonate." The message, broadcast on all frequencies in perfect Imperial language, was simple. "From Earth, with love." The shipyard erupted in a chain of explosions. Years of Imperial shipbuilding capability vanished in seconds. As his fleet jumped away before reinforcements could arrive, Mark knew the real war was just beginning. Back on Earth, the Defense Council received his success signal. The humans had struck their first blow, but more importantly, they had shown the Empire something terrifying. Humans didn't just fight wars, they'd revolutionized them. The Empire's War Council would need new pants when they got this report. The Imperial War Council sat in stunned silence as they watched recordings of their shipyard's destruction. 12 of the Empire's highest-ranking commanders, representing 10,000 years of military tradition, could not understand how they were losing to a species that had only recently mastered spaceflight. Impossible. General Stem slammed his 4 fists on the table. They're breaking every rule of warfare. High Commander Branch, the eldest of the council, leaned forward. That general is exactly the problem. They don't follow rules. They don't fight the way we expect. And now, they've created something that terrifies even me. The room darkened as a new hologram appeared. It showed an Imperial battle group disappearing into what looked like a small black hole that appeared out of nowhere. 1 second the ships were there, the next, crushed into nothing. What you're seeing is human gravity weapon technology, Branch explained. They found a way to create temporary, controlled gravity wells that can crush our ships. Our scientists said this was impossible. The humans did it in 6 months. Around the table, faces grew pale. The Empire had always won its wars through superior technology and strict military doctrine. But these humans, they took technology and used it in ways no sane species would consider. Meanwhile, on Earth's Moon Base 1, Dr. Paul watched his team's latest gravity bomb test with satisfaction. The device was smaller than a car, but could create a localized black hole strong enough to destroy the largest Imperial ships. The holes lasted only seconds, but that was all they needed. Load the production data, he told his assistant. Every Earth ship needs these yesterday. The humans' greatest advantage wasn't just their technology. It was their ability to think differently. While Imperial ships always fought in strict formations, human captains treated space like a 3-dimensional ocean, diving up and down in ways that confused Imperial targeting systems. Admiral Mark's fleet demonstrated this perfectly during the Battle of Proxima. His ships split into pairs, each operating independently instead of as a single unit. The Imperial commander, trying to follow standard doctrine, spread his forces too thin trying to counter every human ship pair. They expect us to fight like them, Mark had told his captains before the battle. So we'll fight like pirates instead. The human ships darted in and out of combat range, using short jumps and irregular movements that made no sense to Imperial commanders. They fought dirty, used tricks, and never did the same thing twice. In their staging area near Jupiter, Earth scientists were already working on the next innovation. They had discovered that Imperial ships couldn't track targets moving through quantum uncertainty states. So they built quantum drives that let their ships exist in multiple possible locations at once. The beauty of it, explained engineer Anna to the Defense Council, is that they can't hit what they can't pin down. Their computers try to target all possible positions at once and crash. The Empire's response to these innovations was painfully slow. Their military had strict procedures for adopting new technology, procedures that took years. By the time they developed countermeasures for one human tactic, Earth had developed 3 new ones. Back in the Imperial War Council, High Commander Branch made a chilling announcement. Our intelligence suggests the humans are sharing their innovations with other species we've conquered. Rebellions are breaking out in 12 sectors, all using human tactics. The other commanders shifted uncomfortably. An empire built on predictability and control was facing an enemy that thrived on chaos and innovation. Perhaps, suggested one of the younger commanders, we should consider negotiations. The room erupted in angry shouts, but Branch raised a hand for silence. No, the humans have rejected every peace offer. They don't want our surrender. They want to dismantle our entire empire. And based on their progress, he paused, looking at the latest battle reports. They might just succeed. In Earth's orbit, another test fleet prepared to launch, equipped with weapons that existed only in science fiction a year ago. The Empire was about to learn another hard lesson. In a war of innovation, never bet against human creativity. Deep in Imperial space, on a mining world called Bluestone, A slave worker named Rock watched a smuggled video for the 100th time. The grainy footage showed human ships dancing through space, defeating the supposedly invincible Imperial fleet. His people had been slaves for 3 centuries, but now, for the first time, hope flickered in their crystal-like eyes. "They'd beat them," he whispered to the gathered crowd in the underground cavern. "These humans, they fight back and win. Why can't we?" The news of human victories had spread like wildfire through the Empire's conquered worlds. Every defeated Imperial fleet, every successful human raid, became a symbol of resistance. The Empire had spent thousands of years crushing the spirit of their subject species, but they couldn't stop the stories. Captain Kelly of the Earth stealth ship, Shadow Striker, had made it her mission to spread those stories. Her ship, using advanced cloaking technology that bent light and sensor readings, slipped between Imperial worlds. They dropped supplies, weapons, and most importantly, information. Another successful delivery, Kelly reported to Earth Command. "The Rock people of Bluestone are ready. They've memorized everything we taught them about guerrilla warfare." The Empire had never faced an internal rebellion before. Their control was built on fear and overwhelming force. But humans had centuries of experience with resistance movements, and they were sharing everything they knew. On planet after planet, slaves and servants began acting strangely. Equipment broke down in ways that were hard to fix. Supply ships arrived at the wrong times. Small things, but they added up. The Imperial Governor of Bluestone noticed something was wrong when mining production dropped by 30%. "Work harder," he ordered, "or face punishment." But the next day, all the mining machines stopped working at once. Crucial parts had vanished. When his guards went to arrest the shift supervisors, they found the mines empty. Then the lights went out. Rock's voice echoed through the darkness. "We don't fear you anymore." The humans had taught them well. Don't fight directly. Strike at weak points. Disappear before they can respond. Use their size and strength against them. In the Imperial Palace, reports poured in from across the Empire. A food processing planet's entire crop was mysteriously inedible. A fuel refinery suffered unexplained accidents. Transportation hubs reported navigation problems. "It's spreading," High Commander Branch reported to the War Council. "The humans aren't just beating us in space, they're teaching others to resist. The Empire is rotting from within." The Council watched in horror as another report came in. The robot servants on the luxury world of Golden Sun had turned against their masters, their programming altered by resistance hackers using human techniques. The Empire's own automation was becoming a weapon against them. Captain Kelly's ship arrived at another planet, this one inhabited by beings of pure energy. "Your prison is built on lies," she broadcast. "Here's how to break it." The transmission included plans for disrupting Imperial power systems, designed by Earth's best engineers. 3 days later, the planet's Imperial garrison went dark. On Bluestone, Rock led his people in taking control of the orbital defense platforms. The Imperial Governor, hiding in his fortress, sent an urgent message to the Empire. "Send help. The slaves are using human tactics." But help would not come. The Imperial fleet was too busy fighting humans to suppress rebellions. Every ship they sent to restore order was one less ship defending against Earth's advances. "Fascinating," said Admiral Mark, watching reports of the spreading rebellion. "We thought we were fighting an empire. Turns out we're leading a revolution." The Empire had ruled through fear and overwhelming force, but humans understood something they didn't. The most powerful force in the universe wasn't weapons or ships, it was hope. And they were spreading it across the galaxy. In his hidden command center, Rock received a message from Earth. "Keep going. We'll keep them busy up here. Your time for freedom has come." The Empire was learning its hardest lesson yet. When you build your power on fear, a little hope can bring it all crashing down. The Imperial Treasury's main counting hall was silent except for the sound of worried whispers. Financial advisors huddled around holographic displays showing the Empire's resources, and none of the numbers looked good. We've lost 60% of our mining worlds to rebellions, one advisor reported, his hands shaking. 40% of our farm planets are in chaos. The treasury is nearly empty. High Commander Branch stood at the window of his office in the Imperial Palace, watching ships scramble to defend against another human attack. The empire that had stood for 10,000 years was crumbling in less than 2. "Sir," his aide rushed in, "Earth has announced they're ready to test their new weapon." Branch felt a chill run down his spine. The humans had already created weapons that bent gravity and twisted space. What could they have made now? The answer came sooner than expected. In a remote star system, Earth's scientists had built something they called the Star Killer. It wasn't just a bomb or a ray gun. It was a missile that could change how stars burned. Admiral Mark stood on his bridge, watching the test target. An uninhabited star system with a red dwarf star. "Launch the Star Killer," he ordered. The missile, barely larger than a small ship, streaked across space. It carried a payload based on the Empire's own fusion technology, but modified in ways their scientists had never imagined. When it hit the star, something impossible happened. The red dwarf began to pulse, its core reactions going wild. Within hours, the stable star that had burned for billions of years went supernova. The Empire's scientists watched in horror as their instruments recorded everything. Humans had weaponized stellar physics itself. "We're sending this data to every Imperial world," Admiral Mark announced on all frequencies. "Your Empire now has a choice. Surrender, or we start targeting populated systems." In the Imperial Palace, panic spread like wildfire. The War Council demanded immediate action. The Treasury warned they couldn't afford to fight anymore. The Science Council admitted they had no defense against star-killing weapons. But the Imperial leadership hesitated too long. Earth had already chosen their first real target, the Imperial capital's sun. "Final warning," came the human message. "Evacuate your capital world. You have 48 hours. The Empire didn't believe humans would really do it. They were wrong. As the Star Killer missile approached their sun, the Imperial leaders finally ordered an evacuation. Billions of beings tried to flee at once. Spaceports were overwhelmed. Rich nobles fought with common workers for places on escape ships. "Look what they made us do," Admiral Mark said sadly, watching the chaos through long-range cameras. "They could have prevented this." The Imperial sun began to die. First it swelled, turning an angry red. Then pulses of energy shot from its surface. The Imperial capital's sky filled with deadly light. In their desperation to escape, Imperial ships crashed into each other. The carefully ordered society collapsed into panic. 10,000 years of history and culture were abandoned in hours. Branch watched from his emergency shuttle as the sun that had warmed his world for millions of years began its final death throes. "How?" he whispered. "How did they beat us so completely?" The answer was simple but terrible. Humans had been preparing for the worst since they first looked up at the stars. They had imagined every possible threat, created defenses against dangers that didn't exist yet. When the Empire came, humans were ready, not with specific weapons, but with the ability to create them. As the Imperial sun went supernova, its light marked the end of an era. The empire that thought itself eternal had been broken by a species they had dismissed as primitive. In Earth's war room, Admiral Mark received the first surrender messages from Imperial worlds. "Send our response," he ordered. "Tell them it's time to build something new." The Empire had finally learned its lesson. Never start a fight with humans. They don't know how to give up, and they'll do whatever it takes to win. 1 year after the Imperial sun went dark, representatives from 1,000 worlds gathered in Earth's new space station, Unity. The massive structure, built using a combination of human innovation and Imperial technology, floated in orbit as a symbol of the new era. Admiral Mark, now head of the Earth Defense Force, stood before the gathered species. Some were tall and crystalline, others were made of pure energy, and some looked like clouds of colored gas. All had once been part of the Empire. All were now free. Today, Mark announced, his voice carried by universal translators to every being present, we signed the Treaty of Unity, not to build a new empire, but to create something better, the Galactic Confederation. In the front row, Rock from Bluestone sat with other resistance leaders. Their successful rebellions had helped bring down the empire. Now they would help build its replacement. The first rule of our confederation, Mark continued, is that all species are equal. No more masters, no more slaves. We will share technology, trade freely, and defend each other. The Earth Defense Force had already begun this sharing. Human scientists worked with alien engineers to improve space travel. Alien doctors learned human medical techniques. Together, they were creating technologies neither side could have made alone. On the rebuilt Imperial capital world, now called New Hope, former Imperial citizens were learning to live without slaves. Many found they preferred it. Without the Empire's strict rules, they discovered their own creativity and strength. Look at this, said engineer Anna, showing visitors through Earth's new technology exchange center. The rock people of Bluestone taught us how to grow crystals that can store huge amounts of data. We taught them how to use that data for art. Together, we're making something entirely new. The former Empire's rigid military doctrine was replaced by a defensive alliance that valued flexibility and innovation. Each species contributed their unique strengths. Earth provided strategic thinking and creativity. Other worlds added their own skills and knowledge. In deep space, Captain Kelly's ship, once a stealth vessel, now led diplomatic missions. Hard to believe, she told her mixed crew of humans and aliens that just 2 years ago, we were smuggling weapons to these worlds. Now we're helping them build schools. The Galactic News Network, created to replace Imperial propaganda, broadcast across former Imperial space. Another milestone today, as the 100th world joins the Confederation. Unlike the Empire's forced membership, worlds are choosing to join for the benefits of mutual cooperation. Even former Imperial commanders found places in the new order. Those who had opposed the Empire's cruelty became advisors, helping the Confederation avoid the Empire's mistakes. High Commander Branch, who had surrendered before the Imperial sun died, now taught at Earth's Space Academy. The Empire fell, Branch told his students, because it never understood that true strength comes from diversity, not uniformity. Humans taught us that different ways of thinking are valuable, not dangerous. In Unity Station's Great Hall, Mark watched representatives from former Imperial worlds sign the treaty one by one. Each signature represented not just a world, but a choice to be part of something built on freedom rather than fear. The Empire took 10,000 years to build, Mark said in his closing speech, and we brought it down in 2. Not because we were stronger, but because we offered hope instead of fear. They tried to make everyone the same. We celebrated our differences. As the ceremony ended, fireworks launched from Unity Station, visible from Earth below. They spelled out words in every language of the Confederation. Together we rise. Rock stood at a window, watching Earth's blue ocean spin below. You know, he said to Mark, my people spent 300 years dreaming of freedom. But we never imagined we'd help build something like this. Mark smiled. That's the thing about humans. We don't just win fights. We make sure something better comes after. That's the real victory. The galaxy had learned its lesson. Never underestimate humans. They won't just defeat you. They'll replace your empire with something so much better that even you will prefer it.